What is the single greatest invention in human history? Controlled fire? Paper? Or perhaps the internet? When we think of the wheel, we naturally assume it was one of humanity's very first breakthroughs. After all, how hard could it be? It's just a circular piece of wood, right? Yet history reveals a staggering paradox. Humans created far more complex, intricate technologies long before we ever rolled our first wheel. Consider this timeline. Thousands of years before the wheel existed, humans had already mastered the needle and thread to tailor clothing. We were building seaworthy boats and navigating open waters. We were constructing permanent brick structures and sophisticated shelters. And perhaps most surprisingly of all, we had already invented flutes, carved delicate bone jewelry, and mapped the movements of stars long before anyone carved a working wheel. So why did it take humanity so long to invent a simple wooden circle? Was it a lack of imagination, or was there a hidden engineering hurdle that we completely overlooked today? Today, we delve into the story of the unsung geniuses behind the wheel, discovering why this seemingly simple object was actually a monumental triumph of human engineering. Throughout history, human innovation has relied heavily on biomimicry, the practice of looking at nature and copying its designs. We observed birds soaring through the sky and designed airplanes. We observed fish gliding through water and engineered submarines. We observed burrs sticking to animal fur and created Velcro. But nature offers no blueprints for the wheel. Search every ecosystem on Earth, mountains, rivers, forests, and you will not find a single natural object that functions as a wheel and axle. Tree trunks can fall and roll down a hill, but they lack a fixed center of rotation. Nature avoids wheels because biological mechanics make a continuous 360-degree rotating joint nearly impossible. In a living organism, a rotating part would twist and sever its own blood vessels and nerves, killing the tissue instantly. This means the wheel was an act of pure human imagination. It was not an imitation of nature. It was a completely original construct of the human mind. Yet the primary obstacle wasn't conceiving a round shape. The true, hidden challenge was the axle system. Imagine you live 5,000 years ago. You manage to cut a near-perfect wooden disc. You drill a hole through the center and insert a wooden rod, an axle. Is your cart ready to roll? Absolutely not. That simple setup will fail almost instantly. Why? Because a functioning wheel and axle must overcome three fundamental engineering hurdles. First, there is friction. If the fit between the wheel and the axle is too tight, the friction generated during rotation creates intense heat, jamming the wheel or wearing the wood down into dust. Second, there is tolerance. If you make the hole too loose to avoid friction, the wheel wobbles violently, destabilizing the entire cart and snapping the axle within a few feet. The tolerance between the wheel and the axle must be precise to a fraction of a millimeter, neither too tight nor too loose. Third, there is weight distribution and surface smoothness. Both the axle and the interior of the wheel hub must be perfectly smooth to allow fluid rotation while remaining strong enough to support heavy loads without fracturing. Mastering this mechanical balance required the advancement of the Bronze Age. Until humans developed precision metal tools, such as copper and bronze chisels, saws, and early lathes, it was virtually impossible to shape wood with the necessary accuracy. So where and when did the first wheel actually appear? And most surprisingly, it was not invented for transportation. Our story begins around 3500 BCE in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. The Mesopotamians were building one of the world's first great civilizations along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. For transport, they relied heavily on boats and waterways, meaning they had little initial need for wheeled carts. What they desperately needed was a faster way to produce pottery. Before this era, pottery was made painstakingly by hand, coiling clay layer by layer. It was slow, inefficient, and produced uneven vessels. Then, an anonymous artisan conceived a breakthrough idea. They mounted a heavy circular wooden or stone disc onto a vertical axle and spun it rapidly. By placing raw clay on the spinning surface, the centrifugal force allowed artisans to shape perfectly symmetrical pots, jars, and vessels in a fraction of the time. This was the potter's wheel. It was the first wheel in human history, designed not to roll across the ground, but to spin in place. The potter's wheel sparked an industrial revolution in Mesopotamia, enabling mass production, trade, and food storage. Yet, for nearly 5 centuries, no one thought to turn this mechanism on its side. It was only around 300 to 500 years later that another inventor made the conceptual leap. What if we placed 2 of these wheels horizontally beneath a platform? And with that, the transportation wheel was born. Early transportation wheels were crude and incredibly heavy. They were constructed by joining 3 thick wooden planks together and cutting them into a solid circle. Because these solid wooden wheels were so heavy, they required massive pulling force. Only slow, powerful animals like oxen or donkeys could haul them, limiting their use to slow farm carts and heavy haulage. Then, around 2000 BCE, the Sintashta culture of the Eurasian steppes introduced a brilliant engineering innovation, the spoked wheel. Designers realized that the solid wooden interior of the wheel added dead weight without providing extra structural integrity. They carved out the interior wood, leaving only a central hub, an outer rim, and thin, connecting wooden spokes. This single innovation transformed human history. The wheel became up to 70% lighter. It retained its structural strength while absorbing shocks far better. Most importantly, it could now be pulled at high speeds by horses. This birthed the war chariot. Fast, agile, and deadly, chariots transformed warfare and empire building. Civilizations equipped with spoked wheels expanded rapidly across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Distances that once took months to travel could now be covered in days. The wheel opened vast trade networks, connected distant cultures, and exponentially accelerated human progress. Today, when we think of the wheel, we envision car tires and bicycle rims. But look closely around you, and you will see the wheel driving nearly every aspect of modern life. The microscopic gears turning inside mechanical watches are wheels. The massive hydroelectric and steam turbines generating our electricity are wheels. The hard drives inside computers, industrial conveyor belts, and gyroscopes stabilizing spacecraft all rely entirely on the physics of the wheel. The wheel was never just a mechanical tool. It was a testament to human ingenuity, a refusal to be constrained by the limitations of nature. An abstract concept with no natural blueprint was brought to life by human intellect, reshaping our planet forever. The next time you board a vehicle or watch a gear turn, remember that anonymous Mesopotamian potter who spun a heavy disc to shape clay and set human civilization in motion. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more mind-blowing mysteries explained.